Heyo everybody, Haku here, and I'm just going to talk about Tower of God with you all for a bit. Like, going in to this week's cliffhanger is the most tempted I have ever been to read ahead as an official reader. So, for anybody watching this ahead of time in the future, well, not ahead of time, behind time in the future or anything, this will be at chapter 648, 4 chapters left until we get to the end of season 3. And yeah, the cliffhanger was so nuts that I really have been the most tempted I have ever been to read ahead right now, at least for right now. So also the Tower of God character polls going on, and if I can, keep Tower of God in people's minds in the conversation, keep people going to the character poll, a link will be in the description, comments as is typical. Then that's a good second use for this video. So I want to talk about the character poll and the results thus far a bit, though I won't get into actually spoiling any of the results because I don't want to influence any of the voting. I don't want people to think, oh, I need to vote for this person or not for this person. And I want it to be a surprise when the final results are out. And I'll also talk about V a bit. I think that's the second big topic I want to hit because there's a lot to talk about there. And I think maybe the third topic I can think of that I want to talk a bit about is Gustang and Blossom. So those are kind of the three topics that I know I want to get to, and who knows where I'll veer off as I'm going to those three. But to talk about the character poll for a bit, we have over 2,100 votes so far, and the results have been very, very cool to see. I love that we've got so much already. Last time we had 17k, and I'd love to try to beat that somehow again. Like I said, I don't know about Tower of God's actual readership numbers anymore, so I don't know if we're going to be able to do it, but hopefully we can try our best. Again, I will give, like, when I do the big results at the end and everything, I want to give some thank yous to people who have really done a good job of sharing it, but even just now I'll just go ahead and preliminary do that by saying, like, big thank you to Dr. Bonehead. He has such a massive audience, and without him shouting it out, then would probably get less traction, less attention. To like other creators like Naya and Animosity for sharing it. For everybody who votes in it, that's really helpful and amazing. Amy, Joe had it on her stream and everything too, so big thank you to everybody sharing it like that. Huge thank you to Boss Jesse who posted it to the Tower of God Discord. I'm not in there, so thank you. Thank you, and a big thank you to Pate Arial, who always helps out the channel a lot, but who also posted about it on the Tower of God subreddit. Again, I don't use Reddit, so I'm not there either. But huge thank you to all of them, and again, every single person who shares, every single person who votes, helps us get those numbers up. So legit, thank you to everyone, because everyone is helping. Quite literally, it's one of those things, we can't do it without your help. But no, like, quite literally, we cannot do this without people. We cannot do a character poll without people actually voting in the character poll. So quite literally, that's true here. But so far, when you look at character polls for manga and stuff, which is a popular thing, the main character usually dominates and wins by a decent margin. And there are some exceptions, like Hero Academia, where Bakugo was always the popular pick, the favorite pick. Bakugo would always win by a decent margin. And for us, for Tower of God, in the last one, we got 17k. So far, we have 2k. You have 28 days left. So I really think we can get there. Like, if you vote, if you're using your 3 votes a day for the same character, you could push a character near the top yourself, honestly, given what we saw at the end of last week, or last poll's results back in 2022. So even if you're, like, for me, I'm spreading my votes out. Like, I'll give a vote to, like, I've given one to, like, Luzlek, Yuan Sung, Yama, Joaquin, Jaja, Misang, Hackney, Elaine. I've given one to Enkidu, to Serpent Master. Like, every day I'm just going for a different 3 characters. But if you want to go for the same 3 characters each day, if you want to go for 3 votes for the same character each day, you can, and you could really push certain characters up there if you wanted to. It's fun seeing some of the meme characters. One joke that I'm torn on is the Bellerear meme votes, because it's like, when do you take a joke too far? Because Bellerir is really a front runner, I think, for the character poll. And at first it's like, okay, that's really fun. But then it's like, okay, but if Bellerir does win or like does extremely well off of meme votes, it's like, on the one hand, that's a part of the fun. The meme votes are part of the fun. On the other hand, it's like, okay, does it stop being funny after a certain degree? But in addition to being a fun meme vote, Bellerir is also, I think, just a solid enough character. When it comes to the timing of this character poll, like, for the past year, for the past 50 chapters, I do screen time notes for the screen time videos, and even compared, let alone the earlier arcs, even compared to the 50 chapters before this past 50 chapters, which would have been the nest, or not the nest, it would have been the hotel and the stuff between the hotel and the sprout. There was just such a wide scattering of characters and their screen time. In the Sprout, despite this being an arc where we should have two great families going to war, while like Song involved, FUG involved, Bomb and his allies involved, we have seen pretty much none of them. The screen time has been like a dozen-ish characters. That's pretty much it. So there's not been a wide array of characters here, and Bellerir's been one of the only ones we've seen a lot of, and I think that Bellerir has been a solid enough character as is. I'm pretty interested in the Bellerenki Dururo stuff. I would, the only things I don't really like are the stuff that, when we have like the stuff with him and Andorthy and she's super off character, and I think that's just a weakness in the writing rather than a weakness in the character. So again, I don't even mind that. So I would say Bellerir's doing very well. I've probably gotten way off kilter with some point that I was on a long time ago, and I'm gonna go back in editing and be like, dang it, why didn't I finish that sentence earlier? But he's doing quite well. Of course, I was talking about, like, you know, certain characters doing very well. Last time, Andorthy won by a wide margin, and so this time, you know, she's got to be a front runner. She's defending her crown, so to speak, and I would say she's doing a good job of it so far. Again, I don't want to spoil too much because I don't want to influence the vote. I would say that she is doing quite well. She's a front runner. Like I said, Bellerir is kind of a front runner, but I think she has some competition so far. Again, we have 28 days left. We're less than a week in. We've got a full 4 more weeks that you can vote, so she could pull super far ahead within the next week or two, or, you know, could somebody defeat Andorthy? Could she be overcome by any other characters? And I will say the one closest to overcoming her is not somebody who was even in the top 3 last time, which is crazy. But there are a lot of characters that I think are doing well, and for me, the characters doing well aren't surprising. I would say that there are some princesses doing well, and there are a lot of characters doing well. I'm trying to do what I can without giving away too much, and the characters doing well aren't surprising to me. They're all characters that I'm like, I get it. I get why they're popular, and like, they're not surprising, but what's surprising are the characters who aren't doing well. There are a lot of characters that I thought would do very well that are getting no or next to no votes. So that's surprising to me. It is also surprising to me to see such a lack of recency bias. Like I said, within the past arc, we've focused on maybe like a dozen-ish characters, and that's about it. We have seen very little out of characters out of like just a handful. And a lot of the recent characters, a lot of the characters we've seen recently are doing pretty poorly. Characters that I thought, oh, they were just introduced, so they'll do very well. Nah, not really the case. Characters that I'm like, okay, they've been on screen a lot recently, so they'll do well. Not necessarily. But then there's some characters, like some of the older characters, some of Bomb's regular allies and stuff, that are doing really, really well. And there are some that are confusing, where like some members of, say, Team Sweet and Sour are doing extremely well, and then some members are doing extremely poorly. So it's crazy how the dichotomy is there. There are a lot of meme characters that are doing pretty decently, less than I'd imagine, but I feel like that's just because Tower of God has so many characters that the meme characters can't all do that well, because there are so many actual legitimate serious characters for people to like. It is really interesting to me how wrong some of my impressions on some characters would be. Some characters who I thought would be really popular, some characters I thought really wouldn't be popular, and how wrong I am on some of that is pretty crazy. So there's that. There are a few more other points I wanted to get to here. And until I remember what some of those points are, I'll say another interesting, like really, really interesting thing to me with the results so far to me are the sort of competition between Traumerei and Gastang, because the big crux of this arc and really big crux of the sort of saga that we're going through has been Lopobia versus Pobedao, Gastang versus Traumerei. So to see Traumerei's results so far and Gastang's results so far is extremely interesting. It is very, like, unexpected and not unexpected. For one of them, not really unexpected, but for the other, extremely unexpected. And then to like widen that into like the four big names that we've had going on here, if you look at like Gastang, Traumerei, Luzlek, and Yurik, I think looking at those four is once again, just seeing where the four of them are at is just so interesting to me. It's neat to see how some characters who haven't been around in years, are doing quite well, and some characters who haven't been around in years that did quite well last character poll, or have just like totally fallen off pretty much. The fall off for some characters is insane. There's an insane fall off for a few of these characters, whereas others haven't fallen off at all despite not being around at all. They're still just as popular as they were, if not even more popular than they were, which is pretty insane. But yeah, I've yapped about that enough. I guess if I remember anything else, I'll bring it back up. I don't know if I'm forgetting anything that I wanted to talk about or not. But I will say, again, continue to go vote. Please put in your 3 votes a day. Please help us to try to beat that 17K from last time somehow. And yeah, my goals, I should say this, my goal really, I think the goal to get more than last time is just because you want to look like it's not falling off. You want to look like you're continually rising. You're bigger number good. That's not really a huge priority, but I think the reason that it's a big priority for me is because last time, something that I really, really wanted was to get as distinct of a top 100 as I could without too many ties where it's just like a 10-way tie or something like that. And for the most part, we only had like one tie in the top 50 last time, which was pretty good. The bottom 50 were pretty much all ties, but again, they weren't like super crazy massive. It was still fine. So I think that, I would like things to go better this time than last time in that sense, where we just have this wide array of characters and we have these distinct top 100 places. That's something that I would really love to get enough votes to get to, because you need to get enough votes to separate out the strata of these characters. And last time we had something that I thought was amazing compared to a lot of manga character polls and stuff, is a lot of time you'll have really high votes for the top however many characters, but then there's a steep fall off to where everyone's voting for like 10 or so characters, nobody's voting for anybody else. But like the results were so wide for Tower of God last time. I thought that was so cool, where we had I don't think over 30. I think we had 30 characters exactly who had over 100 votes, which was super, super cool. Like that many characters could pull over 100 votes out of the 17K we had. And I think so far we have like 3 or 4 that are over 100 and a couple more that are close. So we're already there with a few characters. But again, by the end, 4 more weeks, it'd be really cool to see where that goes. I just think that practically, when it comes to the practical nature of things and me wanting like a actual solid top 100, that would be the goal for getting so many votes, is so that we could have that just from a practical sense. But yeah, I guess that's all I'll talk about with the character poll. To talk about V, though, that's something that I think is huge to talk about. I just don't think we have the full picture. For me, it's not a case where whenever I say, oh, I don't think this is, at least recently, like before this, there was plenty of room for speculation, but within the past few chapters, we have other characters being like, oh, that's V, him remembering things that just V would remember. So it's very clear that this is in some way actually V, but I keep saying I don't think it's like fully V or necessarily actually V, and people are like, but V could have been evil because of the resentment and everything that happened to him. Well, yeah, of course, him climbing the tower, everything that happened between them, being blamed for Amazu's death and everything. There is so much that could have made V more bitter or quote unquote evil, or any other great warriors really good. But that's not at all what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that this feels so different from that V that it's not like he grew into somebody who is a little bit darker. It seems like there's more that we don't know about. There's more mystery here. Why does he have the purple eyes instead of the blue eyes like Lozlek's purple eyes? Is there something sketchy going on there with the spell that has put him within Bomb and everything? Is it fully V, or is it only the vengeful side of V? Is it only an avatar of V's vengeance? So I think the best way to go through this would be to go through the timeline and then hit some theories about how this happened from there, because of some of the things V said in the most recent chapter. So the biggest thing for me is that V said in the most recent chapter, me and this boy's body, we're joining together because we're going to avenge Arlen. That's our greatest wish and everything. But the only really, really bad thing that happened to Arlen, the only great tragedy to Arlen we had, was her child being killed. And if the whole crux of this is the child being killed is bad, then why is it that V seems to have no interest in Bomb? He's just like, oh yeah, this is just a body and avatar for my vengeance. And there are a couple things that could answer that. Maybe this is the body of the actual real child, of course, as we know, but he doesn't view Bomb as the actual child at all. That's why he doesn't mind taking the body, because he's like, this might be the body of the child of Arlen, but the soul's already dead, so I'll just use the body because it's convenient. There could be that excuse for it. Again, maybe I should have made notes because my thoughts are all jumbled here, but to walk through the timeline, it just feels weird how he's acting, given that that's the big tragedy of Arlen that we know about. But let's go through the timeline. That'll make things easier. Starting at the very beginning, we know that V and Arlen had their child. It doesn't make sense for them to have had the child just for vengeance because this happened so early in the timeline. Again, Bomb and what happens with Bomb might be something for vengeance, but the original child was probably just an actual child of theirs, probably born out of love, probably not just vengeance, but again, there might be so much more that we haven't been told yet. Then, the first big event, Zahard kills the kid. I'll call the kid Viol from now on, just to, try to separate Viol from V from Bomb. So kid, original Viol, is killed by Zahard. And after that, that's a pretty bad thing. Also, we should note that he was born and raised on the 43rd floor, the floor of death, before it was the floor of death. We know that the floors were separated between the 13 warriors and everything as they started to set up their territories and everything. That the floors 90 through 100 have been contested between the Kun and REA families. And again, some of this stuff might get retconned because of blog posts going into the actual story. But we know that Arlen was the ruler of the 43rd floor. Or it could have been V. Either way, it was Arlen and V. It was one of their floors. So they had that floor. And, the child was killed by Zahard. After the child gets killed by Zahard, V offs himself. V kills himself. And the reason that we're given by Garam, who learned this stuff from Arlen's pocket, or I guess from N, who had Arlen's pocket. So N learned it from there and then gave the pocket to Arlen, or gave the pocket to Garam, and Garam also learned it from the pocket. So according to Garam, the reason that he killed himself was so that Arlen would go back to her companions. And Arlen said, screw that, I'm not doing that. She takes the baby's body, goes to the outside, has the outside god put a soul into it, or to revive it for her. And I don't think he actually revived it. I think that it's going to be a situation similar to Huang, but before I get into that, this is where V could have put himself into Bomb's body. It could have happened later on the second floor when he got the blue Thrissa, but the first place in the story where V going into the body of the child could have happened was here. So when V killed himself, Did he really kill himself? He could have killed his physical body, but put his soul into the child's body to get revenge. Kind of weird that the child's body wouldn't just get V's soul then and there, but maybe, again, maybe it needed to prepare itself. Maybe it needed Bomb to raise it up to that level so that it could handle V's powers. But this is the first place I think that V could have been put into Bomb's body, is when he killed himself. He could have killed himself, put his soul into the baby's body, then Arlen takes the baby's body to the outside, then the baby's body gets Bomb in it, because I don't think Bomb is the original child's soul. I think the original child's soul was killed. It might be gone for good, it might be permanently gone, or it also might be hanging out inside the body somewhere. We could have V the Father, V the Son, and Bomb the Holy Spirit all within this one body, going for more religious symbolism. There could be that. But either way, the child at least was killed, his soul potentially gone forever. V could put a soul in there. Then Arlen takes the body, which she thinks is totally soulless because it's been killed, and is like, hey, outside God, bring my kid back to life. And I think the outside God pulls what I'm going to call a pro gamer move. And my theory is that he puts himself in there, but he could just put a different soul. And I think the new soul in the body is Bomb. I think that Bomb is a totally new soul that was put into the child's body. I don't think he is actually the soul of V and Arlen's child. I think he's his own thing. And my personal theory, I think he might just be the outside God. So one of my reasonings for it is I think that Huang's story and Huang's interactions with Zahard are going to be a mirror for Bomb's story. So Huang's mother, who was also Yura's mother, was going to have a kid with one of the cursed people, and one of those kids was destined to die, essentially, and it was going to be the male of the twins. So in the outside world, the male twin died, the Huang body died, and then Yura survived, but because she made a copy of herself on the data floor when she was a regular, this pregnant copy of herself was able to be like, hey, could you, since I'm data now, could you change the data around so that my son will survive and the daughter will die? That way, the son will survive in the data world, the daughter will survive in the real world, and in some way, both can survive. And that was the idea behind Huang. So she goes to Huang, who was, an administrator set up there, a big breeder set up by Zahard himself, and asks Huang, hey, much like Arlen going to the outside world and saying, outside God, bring my baby back to life, she's like, hey, Huang, how about you help my baby be alive? And Huang does a pro gamer move. He's like, I'd like to be a human. So he puts his soul into the baby's body and is like, yes, mommy, raise me. And he gets raised by Yura's mom. But eventually, she figures it out. Eventually, she's like, you're not my son. You're a monster. You're not my actual child. You're a monster. And she ends up having her data deleted. And Huang is like, dang, this kind of sucks. I think it's going to be a similar situation with Bomb, where Arlen took the body to the outside. I think was like, outside God, put a soul in my baby's body. Outside God was like, what would it be like to be a human? So I personally think the outside God pulled a Huang and put his soul within the body. But even if it's not the outside God soul, either way, it's a new soul. It's a different soul, and that is Bomb. Bomb could be the soul of the outside God, and that's why he's so special even among irregulars, or he could just be a new soul given by the outside God. But either way, he's a new soul within the body. And then Bomb kind of gets raised as a human. We know Rachel said, Arlen called you a monster. And we got that right after we got the hidden floor, right after we got Huang's story. And Zahard was telling Huang, hey, you thought you could be a human, you were never meant to be a human or whatever. So again, when Bomb meets Zahard, we could eventually get Zahard telling Bomb that himself. But yeah, I think that Bomb's a completely new soul, and that's when he was placed in. He was raised up. I think Arlen rejected him because Arlen, much like Yura's mother, is like, that's not my kid. That's not my kid's soul. You put a new soul in here. And then eventually got trapped in the cave. We don't really know enough about the cave yet. Eventually he and Rachel entered the tower, and we know the story from there. So from there, timeline-wise, we get the second point at which V could have entered Bomb's body. If V didn't kill himself and put his soul in there as some sort of spell, which is totally a possible thing, or maybe even Arlen was like, oh, V killed himself, let me capture his soul, put it in the body, it doesn't make the body come back to life, then she takes it to the outside god. We don't know all the info, that could have totally happened. But either way, the second place it could have happened, second floor, Bomb hears Horyang's backstory as they're climbing the tower, part of Team Tangsuyuk, and when he's climbing, Horyang says, you know, I was in this situation where we saw this devil, and the devil was split in two, put into me and Kasano. I felt this sort of pain, it felt like it was tearing my body apart and everything, and now I can feel it inside of me. And Bomb said, wait, that happened to me. He was like, maybe what happened to you was, you know, a precursor. That was FUG experimenting with this technology in order to do what happened to me, because Bomb says, while he was on the second floor, while he was training with Yu Hansung, while he was being sort of brought into FUG, he was placed in a tank that was on the second floor, and he saw a red light there. And he says that the red light came into his body, and now he feels a power within there. I think Horyang connects it back to the skeleton we saw when he first meets them, and Wangnan throws the bomb, and we have the red exoskeleton protect bomb there. That the red light that's within him, the devil that's within him, could have been this red exoskeleton. We then learn to ignite something like the thorn. To be an ignition weapon, you need something to ignite it. You need a soul, which is part of why one faction of FUG wanted to melt Bomb into it. They were going to use Bomb's soul to ignite the thorn, but Bomb could ignite the thorn himself because within him he had the devil to ignite the thorn. So this red light, this red exoskeleton, is probably the devil to ignite the thorn that Bomb already had in him. It was put in him by FUG to turn him into a human ignition weapon so that he could use the thorn. Now, as we go through the Hell Train, Bomb starts seeing visions of this red light, and then he eventually sees the blue Thrissa who says, hey, I'm the red light. So the red light that he got all the way back at the second floor was probably the blue Thrissa all along. This could again be related to V, because V was given the blue flame, and as V is given the blue flame and taught about revolution and evolution, we see a shot of a blue demon who is similar to the blue Thrissa. So again, is the blue flame the blue Thrissa, and is V's soul connected to that? Maybe after V took himself out, the blue flame, the blue Thrissa that was left behind after V taking himself out, maybe that was put into Bomb on the second floor, and if Bomb didn't already have V's soul before, Bomb could have gotten V's soul when the blue Thrissa was placed into him. So from there, we carry on with the story, and as we're going through the Hell Train, we get to the hidden floor. Bomb undergoes revolution, and during that, when he is discovering his true power, when he's discovering his power, his Shinsu quality, he makes the line, and it's really weird and interesting, and I wonder what Seiu's doing there, making the line into the V hole. He makes the line, he says, this is my power. Also, just some random asides as we go through this. Gustang said back in Floor of Death, he's like, oh, you're the child of V. Then when Zahard sees Bomb on the hidden floor, not Data Zahard, the real Zahard tells Bomb, oh, you're the child of the woman I loved most. So again, confirming V and Arlen's son, at least the body, but Zahard's like, oh, no, I already killed you. So original soul probably died there, maybe, and Bomb is a new soul placed into it, much like Huang. Because again, all this is happening at Hidden Floor, so I think that's our hint, that's our foreshadowing there. So Bomb makes it, he starts using his own power. When Bomb says, I'm going to use my own power, he starts using black and colorless Shinsu, and I tied that into V and Arlen. We know that originally the 13 months were made for Zahard and his 12 companions. So all of the 13 great warriors should have had one of the 13 months, but then V and Arlen decided to break the band up, and it ended up going to the princess system. So my guesses have kind of been, I definitely know back in Floor of Death, we're told that, they were supposed to go to the 13 warriors. There was a blog, I remember people saying there was a blog post, all of the 13 warriors have unique Shinsu colors, but I tried to do some research before doing this and find that specific blog post. I couldn't find it, so again, that one might not be true. Take that with a grain of salt. I remember it being true, but I couldn't actually find the specific blog post, so you might want to ignore that point. But if that is the case, then I think it totally makes sense that the colorless December was supposed to go to Arlen, because the colorless December goes to N. N is the one who found Arlen's pocket, N is the one who was sealed away with the colorless December, N's the one who gave the pocket to Garam. N has this deep connection here with Arlen, with the colorless Shinsu. Bam is using like the clear orb and the clear Shinsu surrounding the black Shinsu. We just see V, when V attacks Traumaray, he uses black Shinsu. So if this is V's power, V is using black Shinsu here. And again, Bam, from the very, very, very beginning of the series, like chapter 2, Bam has had the Black March, a connection to the Black March. I mean, he hasn't always had the Black March with him, but he's had it for most of the series with him, actually, at this point. And he's always had this deep connection to it, and I think that's because this was originally supposed to be V's weapon. And it makes more sense if we're preparing Bam to be V, that he would get V's weapon. Because, again, we're learning that he learned to increase his Shinsu tension and everything. That's something that V did. He learned Water Dragon. That was one of V's skills. We still don't know how Hansung plays into this, because even as a regular, Hansung as a regular knew about V. Hansung also has a connection to blood matter, and we don't know what the deal is with his connection to the, immortality contract. I think because he has a connection to the immortality contract, because he has a connection to blood matter, and we learned that all the family heads were putting their memories somewhere, I think there is a possibility that blood matter put his memories or some of his memories into Hansung, and that's how Hansung knew about V ahead of time and all this stuff. There is a chance. Or Yu Hansung, the Yu family, could just be a branch of the Hendo Lak family, because Yu Hansung says back when he's trying to convince Seven Kel to join him and to help him out, he says, I never planned to live for a very long time, but I plan to use my life to create a new tidal wave in the tower to change the tower. So if he wasn't planning to live for a long time, we know the Hendo Lak family has shortened lifespans, then maybe that's a hint that he is from a branch of the Hendo Lak family. So there is that. Now, somebody did ask me in the comments about the Shinsu loops, and if that was also potentially one of V's abilities. Again, Bam has learned so many of V's abilities at this point, but the Shinsu loops are interesting because I don't think that was one of V's abilities. Yu Hansung said that was something that he developed because Yu Hansung's a genius of Shinsu control, and Yu Hansung said, I don't have that strong of Shinsu, I don't have that much Shinsu because I'm not an irregular, and presumably maybe not from one of the 10 families, and so he invented the Shinsu loop theory in order to be something that would help him out to have more to control, even though, his isn't naturally that strong. It was something to make his Shinsu control more efficient, and it was kind of just a theory, but he's like, Bam, you're an irregular. If you do the Shinsu loops, you could basically just have infinite Shinsu. And that was the point of teaching Bam that. So unless he was lying there, I don't think the Shinsu loops are actually a V technique. It is interesting, though, that V uses a 0 style attack, and Bam learned that from Ha Chai. So that is weird that he learned it from Ha Chai, of all places. It seems like V, when we had the end of the chapter, it seems like he left a bang of Shinsu behind by Traumaray, then got chased away from Traumaray, by Yurik, and as he's leaving, he activates that bong to, like, make an attack or whatever, and Yurik's like, no, I can't get back in time and all of that. So again, I don't know how that happens because I don't know what happens in the next few chapters yet, but that's something that we saw Baum learn after getting the Red Thrissa after Floor of Death. After Floor of Death, he was like, I can activate Bongs of Shinsu at a distance now after getting the Red Thrissa. So there's that. Also with the Blue Thrissa, it's weird that it's called a Thrissa. I think that the Red Thrissa is probably a remnant of the 43rd floor Guardian, because it says that Enryu showed up, Enryu killed the Guardian, and in the remnants of the Guardian, Yurik found the Red Thrissa, right? Didn't Yurik find it and give it to Heljo, or did Heljo find it and Yurik let him keep it? I don't remember. But either way, in the remnants of the dead Guardian, the dead Administrator, is where they found the Red Thrissa. So there are two options I can see, is that either the Red Thrissa was just a Guardian's child, which we have no precedent for, or Guardians are actually immortal, or Administrators are actually immortal. You can't kill them. Enryu killed it, but much like a Deadpool kind of situation, if there's like even a couple cells left, those cells will still grow back eventually. I think my personal theory is that's what the Red Thrissa is that it's just a remnant of a Guardian, that the 43rd floor Guardian was mostly killed, but even a few cells are going to start regenerating, and that's what the Red Thrissa was. I think it's a piece of the Guardian, but I could be totally wrong. And so then it's like, what's the Blue Thrissa? Is it also a piece of a Guardian? Or is it the blue flame that was given? Like, what is it? It's also called a devil. What are devils? Like, what is the devil that was placed into Horyang and Kasano? Or what is the demon? There are demons in hell within Tower of God, because Daniel talks about literally actually dying and going to hell. Like, at first I thought that was just metaphorical for the hell train and stuff, but then going back through and rereading, it's like, no, he actually literally died. He went back on the train to try to find Joaquin and Rowan and whatever, and he actually died, and then he had visions of Joaquin in hell that told him about how to do the necromancy stuff, which is now something Traumeray's doing with necromancy, and told him how to find Joaquin. But then when he frees Joaquin, Joaquin's talking like he hasn't seen Daniel in forever. So Joaquin never brings up talking to Daniel while he was in hell. So who did he see? Like, was that just some astral projection of Joaquin and Joaquin never brings it up? Or was that a demon in hell pretending to be Joaquin in order to set Daniel to free Joaquin again? Because what's the deal with Joaquin himself? Joaquin found these ancient books, and it seems like Vicente played a big role in that. And Vicente was like, I have to kind of blame myself partially for Joaquin becoming a demon, because Joaquin was like, oh yeah, this demon taught me how to do this. This demon told me how to do the soul stuff. I fused myself with 4 of my siblings. And we get the part where Arye Hone's like, you can't defeat me as you are now. You would have to come back as a demon to do that. So again, that gives you the idea that a family head can be killed potentially by special circumstances. Like Joaquin could have never gone past where Hone was normally, but by getting these special powers, he could potentially do it. And we know that Gastang brought up before that there were things they feared while climbing the tower that I think are potentially the ancients that they were wiping out. I think that's potentially what they feared when climbing the tower. And that makes me think too, like, a lot of people have said, oh, a family head can't be killed because of this, a family head can't be killed because of this. They do have immortality contracts, but we're told in I think it's in the Name Hunt Station, they bring up the King's contract. Actually, before that even, it's early season 2 when Hua Ryun's talking to Wang Nan and everything, I think is when we first hear about the King's contract. It said that Zahard's King's contract means that nobody from the tower can kill him. But because Hua Ryun specifically says that's the King's contract, the other family heads seem to have immortality, but I think that immortality might just be they don't age past a certain point. Even though aging slows down for like all these other super powerful people, these high rankers and everything, I think they might literally get to not age. They might literally just not age at all. And we've also heard that as people get older, they have a chance of developing this basically Shinsu cancer, where their body will start rejecting Shinsu and it'll kill them. And CU said in the blog post that it works similar to the way that cancer works, the way this like Shinsu rejection on the body works. And it can happen as people get older. It has to do with how healthy they keep their bodies. But that's again something where your normal ordinary person is probably dying of old age normally, but these super powerful people that slow their aging down a lot, they can probably also die from, like, even high rankers and stuff, I would assume after thousands and thousands of years, could potentially also die from the Shinsu rejection stuff. Maybe that's a possibility. So you have that, and then I guess, I don't know where I've gotten off track to, but yeah, I've talked about the V stuff and where the different points that V could have entered Bomb's body is. It's very weird that the V hole ended up being the My Power stuff. It's interesting the different things that we've seen Bomb do that seem almost like not even, like some things were totally planned by FUG, but then there are some things that it's like, how could FUG have planned for Bomb to get this ability, and yet somehow Bomb just happens to have these abilities that V can also do, which is an interesting note to have. So yeah, putting all of that aside, the last thing I want to talk about is how V came to take over Bomb's body. It seems like this whole time he's just been dormant. Even when Bomb was going like full crazy raining Shinsu mode against White, it seems like V was dormant, and we really hadn't had any big hints of this stuff until this arc. The first time that we see it is when Enkidu enters Bomb's body and touches the V hole. And then he's like, oh, I am V, and he calls himself like a god of vengeance. And it was Enkidu's resentment that awoke him, and Enkidu is, I guess, like this walking avatar of resentment. And I wonder then if it is because of Enkidu specifically, if anybody's resentment could have worked, but I guess not anybody else could have entered Bomb's soul world like Enkidu entered Bomb's soul world like that. And so maybe that's why it works for Enkidu, or maybe it's because Enkidu is a creature created by the workshop that's neither creature nor, like whatever Trummery said, like neither creature nor human, and both creature and human. Like Enkidu is maybe a special existence, and also Enkidu has these special contracts with the administrators, and maybe that's why Enkidu touching the V-hole was able to awaken him. And then the second time we see it happen is when Enkidu attacks Bomb. We see the V-hole react to Enkidu attacking Bomb, and this was right after we got the rest of the Amazu flashback, right after we're seeing the real resentment of Enkidu there. And then we have when Traumare's attack comes in, V's soul takes over to save Bomb from Traumare's attack. And that makes me question, is Traumare's attack what finally woke V up, like Traumare's resentment hitting him? Or I think it might not have even been that. I think that V might have been awake within Bomb from the time that Enkidu hit him, but then he saw that the attack could have potentially killed Bomb. V saw the attack could have potentially killed Bomb, because we've seen before that even though Bomb is an irregular and super special among irregulars, he can still take a lot of damage. He took a lot of damage fighting against Kaiser. White could have killed him during Bomb versus White, but he's like, I don't want to kill you, I want to try to corrupt you. And he didn't really try to kill Bomb until the very end, but by the time we got to that point, he couldn't do it because Bomb was sucking up all of his soul energy. And he also got hit with Rack's spear, and Bomb was getting powered up by the Sweetfish. So, again, Bomb could have potentially died there. We have all of that happening, and V didn't try to save him, but the point is that Bomb can potentially die. So Bomb, as strong as he is, if he got hit by Disconnect maybe could have potentially killed him, and that's why V steps in. V is like, okay, this body could potentially get killed, and I need to save this body. So that's why he took over now. Because even though the time isn't right, he needed to save Bomb from getting killed by Tromre's attack. I think that could be it. And that makes me think, if the body's not fully ready yet, and he says, I'm just borrowing it for a little bit, how long is V going to be in control? Even next chapter is he can say, all right, I'm dipping out for a while, and V's going to go to get milk again within the inner world, and he's just going to be gone for a while again. Either way, this is really cool, though, because the conflict can go in so many ways. I think it'd be very interesting to see Bomb having to fight for autonomy over his body with V, and especially if this means a real focus on Bomb's allies, trying to save him and everything. I think it could lead to like a FUG Civil War type situation, because Bomb was like, I'm going to use FUG for something good, for liberating the tower and stopping the Zahard Empire and 10 families and everything. He was going to use FUG for good, and also I think some of FUG would side with Bomb, like even though V's like their god or whatever, I think some of FUG would side with Bomb over V. I think Jinsung's there for Bomb. Jinsung would side with Bomb over V. I think Yama as well. As much as Yama probably wants the success of FUG to some degree, Yama's not that personally invested in FUG, but we saw at the end of the Walls, Yama personally really likes Bomb, so I think Yama would be siding with Bomb. Evankel's not really FUG, I think she would side with Bomb. And I think that Karaka would be Karaka would be so tsundere about it, but Karaka would be like, this is the boy my master chose, and I actually think he'll do a better job than V and everything. I think that Karaka would be so tsundere about it, but I think Karaka would also definitely side with Bomb, and it could be a situation where if we do get this sort of potential FUG Civil War type storyline, that Bomb wins over the rest of FUG. It could, like, I think that could be a good way of Bomb stepping into his own as a character more, because as a main character, Bomb is so hit and miss. I think this could be another way of having Bomb step up as a main character, where he convinces Luzlek, hey, I'm the right person for this, not the, scraps of my father's soul left within me. I am what you need. I think this could be Bomb's way of stepping up and winning over Luzlek. That could be a part of it, and that could be really good for Bomb's character. But yeah, with all of that speculation aside, one last topic I wanted to hit was the Bidau and Eurasia families. So I've been thinking and theorizing this whole time. I was like, personally, I think that we know Eurasia N was the child of Gastang and Blossom, and she was Eurasia N, not Bidau N. So I was like, I think, well, maybe I won't word it this way. I'll word it not talking in the past tense, but what my theory is now. My theory now is Gastang's children with N are the Eurasia family. It's not like they got joint custody. Some went to one family, some went to the other. I think his children with N are the Eurasia family, and I think the Bidau family is all children from other tower-born women and riding children. But I don't think they're all riding children. I think that there are some that are Gastang's actual children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, his actual descendants. And my basis for this, or one of my bases for this is what I have thought, but I haven't had anything good to compare it to give evidence. But then I just remembered the Ari family and the Ha family. It's the same situation. So I think a child born to a female 10 family head is part of the female 10 family head's family, but the male 10 family head, his children are with Towerborns, or if they can create their own children, because we see the same thing. Ari Han had 2 children with Ha Yureen, and those 2 children are the forefathers of all of the Ha family. All of the Ha family descend from the 2 children of Ha Yureen and Ari Han, and Ha Yureen didn't have any other children after those 2, if we are to still believe the blog post. But Ari Han also has a family. He has the Ari family. We know for sure that Ari Han had children with Towerborn wives after he had his 2 children with Ha Yureen. So all of the Ari family are children who were born to Ari Han and Tower natives. So using those 2 as an example, I would say the same is true of the Eurasia family and the Bidau family. I think that his children with Blossom were the Eurasia family. All of the main Eurasia family are born between Gastang and Blossom, is my personal theory. And all of the Pobidau family, I don't think any of the Pobidaus are related to Blossom. I think the Pobidaus are all the descendants of Gastang and Towerborn, or Gastang's riding children. It's questionable whether or not the riding children can reproduce, which is why I say, either or. We also have interesting examples. So I think Liboric is the craziest example, and then Dumas is also worth mentioning. And I think that maybe we should work from present time back with this timeline. So when we have Bellarire talking with Tiara, Tiara says that Gastang said Bellarire was an illegitimate son of his, but that's probably not true. So he came from the red light district, probably. But then again, we saw him meeting him basically on the streets in that one flashback. So there's more Bellarire for us to learn about. Sorry, I'm getting a little bit distracted by noises in the background. But Tiara said that Gastang didn't have any more biological children after the N incident. The N incident, if we're to believe blog posts, was 4,000 or 5,000 years back, and there's stuff that's even older than that. But 4,000 or 5,000 years is a long, long time. So N incident happened, but we also know that by the time that N came around, the original knowledge of V and Arlen was already gone to the world. The world had already completely been erased of them, except for the certain people who remembered. And also the original purpose of the princess system, which was what they promoted the princess system as. They were promoting it as finding a wife for Zahard, because they wanted to appease people who wanted an heir to the throne. But that whole original reason had already been lost to time. So that was something that was publicly known that was lost to time. So it had been a long time before all of that stuff, in between when N came around. So anything after the N incident, Gastang didn't have any more biological children. Anything from there were riding children. But we know that he probably had riding children before the N incident, because Kelhelm is super ancient, and Dumas says that he was an old, either Dumas said he was an old rival of Kelhelm, or Kelhelm said he was an old rival of Dumas, one of the two. So we know that Dumas probably predates N. Dumas is probably even more ancient than N, because Kelhelm is extremely, extremely ancient. So Dumas also says when he meets up with Tromare at the beginning of the Sprout, he's like, Lord Tromare, it's been a long time. So Dumas knew Tromare. So Dumas is probably an ancient, ancient, ancient child of Gastang. So even when Gastang was still having children with Blossom, he was also having riding children. And they, again, could have made up a lot of what the Pobidau family ended up being. So we do know he was making riding children way back then. And what's interesting is that Pobidau Liboric Kun is likely patrilineally from the Pobidau family, and his mother is a Kun, is the most likely scenario for Liboric. So it makes you think, did Gastang write Liboric to be half Kun, or did he marry one of Edwin's daughters or granddaughters or something and have another child to make Liboric? And I say this with Liboric because he's a massive mystery, where Liboric is extremely ancient. Liboric's way older than N would be, because Liboric was already a high ranker, already in a position of power. Well, I don't know if the term high ranker was around yet, but he was already in a position of power within Zahard's empire by the time of the War of Genesis. So he is extremely ancient. He has to be potentially even one of Gastang's first children. Assuming he's one of Gastang's children. He could be a grandchild or something, but as powerful as he is and as ancient as he is, I would think that Liboric's probably one of Gastang's actual children. Again, whether he wrote him to be half Kun, that's kind of weird, or whether he's, actually half Kun from another wife of Gastang's. And then, we're talking about the Pobidau family, but with the Eurasia family, I think it might differ from the Ha family. So Ha-Yurine had 2 children with Arihan. They became the Ha family, and she didn't have any more children. But we aren't told that with Blossom. We know that Blossom had some children with Gastang. They had a tempestuous relationship. I think that there's a chance Blossom isn't like Urine. I think Blossom also had children with other Towerborns, other, like, not Gastang's children. So that's where I think the branch families come in. I think the main Eurasia, like, branch, the people with the name Eurasia are going to be descendants of Blossom and Gastang. Like Eurasia N is given the Eurasia name. I think that all of the others with the Eurasia name are probably going to be descendants of Gastang and Blossom, but we also know that there are members of the Eurasia family that aren't given the Eurasia name. I think those are going to be the children that Blossom had with people who weren't Gastang. The most notable is the Fonsical. We've seen many Fonsical, so again, my personal theory here with this is that Fonsical is one of Blossom's other husbands. You have Blossom and her Fonsical other husband, who's probably a Towerborn, and this Fonsical other husband is probably the father or grandfather, you know, the ancestor, the father ancestor of Lorey, Irude, Yurude, Drac, all of the Fonsicals we've seen. So that's how I would say that the Eurasia family differs from the Ha family. But again, I've talked for like an hour. I've probably forgotten so many things that I wanted to include. Now I'm going to need to go edit and all of that. I'm not feeling too well. So either way, I'm going to end this video here. Thank you for watching, for sticking through it. Remember to go vote in the character poll. I just wanted to talk about all this stuff and get distracted along the way. And there's probably things I've forgotten, things I've misspoken on. So sorry about that. But yeah, like, comment, subscribe, follow on Twitter if you want. If you want to, link to the Discord server, ask and I'll give you one. Please don't spoil me, but also, please vote in the character poll. I'm going to keep repeating it. If you'd like to help support the channel by dropping a super thanks, it's very much appreciated. If you would like to help support the channel by becoming a channel member, hit join down below to become a member, or going to patreon.com/Haku of the Tubes, our link will be in the description, to become a patron. You will also get One Piece videos a little early, and you'll get your name at the end of videos. I'm sorry there is a new member, but I haven't updated my thing yet because it's very recent. So sorry, I'll update it after this. Thank you so much, though, to people who are already patrons and channel members. Thank you to Chosen Regular, Evan Hawley, Magical Girls, Evernono, J.A., and the D-Band, Cheerton Students, David Langstaff, and Folded Ghouls, Slayer Candidates, SG and Stan Eater, and Pure Element, Pater Diallo, and right after doing this, I'll go update this. So thank you so much, and I'll see you all next time.